Hi, in this video we will have a look at Microsoft Power Automate community thread. So here the question is counting number of specific entries in SharePoint for a date, then outputting after a calculation to a different SharePoint list. So what I did is I created a list here called list A, and I have got dates. Then I have got some scores here. So what the user wants here is he wants to get the maximum value from that date, which is in this case here in my SharePoint list here, the highest score here is for today's date, which is there are 3 records here, that is 40 times how many total number of records, that is there are 3 records for today, and that means it's 120. Okay, similar there is another flow, another list called list B also with the same schema. Again we need to do the same calculation here as well. So in this example the highest score is 90 times total number of records for today is 2, that is 180, and both scores should update here actually. That is against the list actually. So the total scores, the date and the total score here. Yeah, so I think I messed up a little bit. Let me correct this. The total scores, ideally what we want here is it should say total scores list A and total scores list B there along with the date. Okay, so I have corrected those columns now. So it's called list A score and list B score. So these are the total scores we need to update under the total scores list. Okay, so let's build this flow then. So the plan is go to the list A first and find the date. It is against the today's date. Yeah, I forgot to mention that. So this is today's date, 3rd of August. And find the total, find the highest value and times by 3, then that's what we want. Okay, let's build the flow then. So for that I'm going to use an instant cloud flow. For the demonstration purpose I'm going to use the manual trigger here. So the trigger could be, you could add a button from another custom application, you can click it and then run the flow, or you could add this as a scheduled trigger. So let's create the flow now. Okay, so SharePoint connector I'm using here and get items. So the first thing we want to use here is there are 5 lists actually. So in my demo I'm only showing list A and list B, but for the user here it says here it's a 5 list, I believe. There are 5, I think. Let me have a look. Yeah, there are list 1, list 2 up to list 5 here. Okay. Right, and select the list, that is list A. Okay, now the next thing is we need to filter by date. So remember in list A I got a date which we need to find against today's date. Okay, the filter. So let me go back here and apply the filter. So my column is called date. So if you want to know the column name, this might not be the same name always. So the best way to find always the schema name is click on the settings, list settings, double click on the date, then see in the URL, this URL here, you should be able to see field equals. This is the value you need to always use under the Power Automate filter query, because if you rename this field, this value never going to get changed. So that means if you can rename this to call something else here, but that value never going to get changed. Yeah, so that's the value we need to use it. So that is that date is equal to, then we need to do an expression here. So the expression I'm going to put 2 single quotes, and inside that I'm going to use formatDateTime utcNow, then yyyy-MM-dd. That's the format we need to use here. Click OK that. Okay. Then the next step, I'm going to use a compose action step and rename this to list A total records. And for that, I'm going to use the length expression here, total number of length of the total record, which is, length, 2 brackets, place your cursor inside the 2 bracket, click on the dynamic content, then select the value. Here we go, that's what we want. Okay, and I'm going to use update scores. That's the name of my flow. Click save, and after that, I'm going to run the flow now. Click on test, manual trigger it is, and test. Here it is. That trigger worked and I got 3 records. That's what here it is. So if I go to my list A, so here you can see today, under today's date, I have got 3 records, but we are interested in here the first record only we are interested. So for that, what we could do here is we could go and say, give me the highest value. That's what we want. So edit, and then here what we could do is we could see order by here. See, so order by the score actually. So again, go to the list settings and find the value of your column name. Okay, that is called the score. So here under the order by column, I'm going to put score, then DESC, that's descending. Okay, try to run again the flow and see the result. Okay, so again it's 3 then, but we know that we run the flow and it's descending order then. So the best way to do the next, the score value here is, I'm going to initialize a variable here, because we want to use this later on. So I'm going to say initialize variable, and here under the initialize variable, I'm going to say list a score. Let's call it highest score, and make that as an integer value. And first value is 0, we know that. And the next, I'm going to use set variable. So again, select the variable. We are going to set the variable now. So set variable. Okay, let me drag and drop the initialize variable just before. That's probably a good thing, is it? Okay, and then after the list, we are going to set the variable, because we got the value from the filter, from the get items. So in the get items property, there is something called score here. So always search for score. You can see get item score here. That's the value we are interested. That's a value we want. But here, what's going to happen here is, this is going to put this in a loop, and it's going to, okay, let me run it. I'll show you the method, because this is not right, but I'll show you why it's not right. Okay, oh, it's failed anyway. So integer cannot, and it's the values type float. Okay, right. I think it's a data type issue. Here it is. Let me sort that out and explain it. Okay, so in SharePoint, my column name called score, declared as number, and here I declared here my initialize variable as integer. So there's a data type conversion we need to do here. So what I did is I used the int to convert that score. That's all it is. So I used the expression again here, int, then from the apply to each loop, I want the score value. That's all it is. So I'm going to run this now and show you the result. So this is not quite right. I'll explain why it is. So remember, we got the get items of list A total, and the total is 3. And then we are saying, okay, loop through each values, but set the variable to that. See that 40 we got, that's correct. That's what we want, 40. But we don't want 28 and 30. So if I go back here, second record should be 30. Then the third record is 28. But ideally, we only interested only in the first value. So to do that, I'll tell you a technique. We don't need to apply the apply to each. So I will remove that in a minute. I'm going to add an action just before that as an if condition here. So in the if condition, what we could do here is, we know that we got a list total number of records here. Yeah, list A total number of records. So that is the output of this one, this compose. So that's one, list A total number of record. Yeah, this output from the previous step. Or you can use the same expression here. Yeah, is greater than 0 means we got some values, don't you? So is greater than 0, just type 0 there, that's it. Then here what we could do here is we could use the set variable here actually. So set variable, okay, what we want is we want the first index value, because we know that it's ordered by the descending order. So we only want the very first value there from this item. Yeah. So what we could do here is we could use, see this here, output of get. So let me copy that and open a notepad and show you how I do. This is where I really do it, these things. So I copy that. That's the output of that, you know, the get items results. Yeah. From here, we know the index, the first index we want. So index starts with 0 there. Then again question mark. Then I'm going to say here score. There we go. So hopefully that should give us only the first result only there then. So in the expression here we go. There is no more loop then, you know. And ideally we don't want 3 records here, is it? We only want the top record only here. I'm going to delete that. So let me run this and see. Hopefully that's will work or not. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to run the flow now again. Oh, flow failed. Okay, another failure. So let me go and have a look why it is. So here it says again it's the value of type float it is, and oh okay, again the integer conversion issue here. Again I have made that mistake. So let me go back here. So I'm going to use the int here again, integer convert to int, that expression. I'll copy this expression in my video as well, video description also. Okay. Oh, didn't update that. That's a bug, and sometimes it won't update it. When you do an update, make sure, you know, sometimes you need to do it 2 times. I don't know why. Click on update. No, I didn't. So I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to remove this mapping. Go into the expression again and copy the int. Then inside that, copy that. Click OK. That. Here we go. That's done. So now, hopefully, we should be able to get the result we want. Okay, I ran the flow now. Let's see then. So no more apply to each. So that should be true because we got 3 records here. So that is greater than 0. And I want the first index. Here we go, 40. That's it we want. Now what we could do here is the list a higher score. So what is a compute? We need to do some computational value here, don't you? So we need to do, what we need to do here is, I think we need to do the total number of records times this. That's the value we are interested. Okay, so let me show you how to do that. Okay, what I did is I cleared that expression. What we want is we need to use another expression on top of it. We need to use multiply mul, see that, then copy the other expression, that's the one we used earlier, comma, then the total number of list a total records. So click on the dynamic content again here, then scroll down a little bit. You can see the output, list a total records. Here it is. Click OK. That should give us the result we want. Let's see. So I'm going to run the flow now again. As I mentioned earlier, I will copy these expressions under my video description. Okay, that's done now. So ideally what we want here is when we going to get the highest score, that is a 40 times 3 records here, it should be 120. So let's see under the condition that's true. Here we go, 120, and that's what we want. And the next thing is very easy. Then what we can do is we need to do the update for the final scores. But before we do the update, I got list B also. So how there are different ways you could do it. You could replicate this, all these 1, 2, 3, 4, all these steps 5 times to do the job. Yeah, that's one way of doing it. It's not the best efficient way of doing it. Then finally, then you can go and say, hey, update. And then you can easily update the total number of values from, you can map it like list A higher score, list B higher score, list C higher score, such and such. Yeah, but what I don't want to do that way, that's the easiest way of doing it, so that means you go here and say create item. And once you had all the results, all you need is go here and say select the list, then that is total scores. Then you know that the title, so you need to put something title. Okay, I'm going to put total scores as a title. Total scores for total scores on, then put the expression something like formatDateTime utcNow, comma yyyy-MM/-dd. No, I want in the English format, sorry. That's the format I want. Okay, you can format in different ways. That's the format I would like to see it. Okay, and then the date. So date, again, it's a today's date. We know that we filtered against the today's date. So here again you can use the utcNow expression here. Yeah, remember that's a date field, so we need to pass in that format. Here it's the text field, that's a more readable format. Then you need to use the format datetime. Then here we go, list a total score. So we got the variable we declared earlier called initialize variable, what's the name, list a highest score it is. So if we map that value, then the variable list a highest score, that's the thing we want here. And again, test this. So I'm going to click on test, save and test. Okay, that means the flow ran. So from list A, we should have the result now for the total records now. So let's see the total records. Where is it? It should be somewhere here. Here it is. So you can see it's formatted with a readable date format, and then today's date, that's utcNow, and then 120. So all I need is, it's very easy to replicate these steps like initialize, get items, and you can probably rename this to say get list A items, and then list A total records condition. So you can replicate 1, 2, 3, 4 steps 5 times. That will be 20 steps then, and then do the create item. Then finally you can map all the fields. What I could show is another way also here to do this. Yeah. So what I could do here is the easiest way to do this is ideally you want these steps to do the job automatically, so for that we may need a couple of other things to help us. Yeah, so let me show you how it is. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a copy of this flow. So for that I'm going to use this option here called save as, and call this this flow. I'm going to put the name as process scores. Let's save that. And this one, the update scores, the old one, I'm going to call this read all list and update total scores. Okay, and just rename that. So we got 2 flows now, remember. Once this is saved, I'm going to go to my flows here, and I should be able to see there are 2 flows here. Okay, so the process scores, I'm going to make edit. By default, once it saves it, let me go back again. Okay, yeah, see this is disabled. Just turn on that flow now. Just turned on. Now edit the flow. I'm going to remove this trigger now and use HTTP here. I'll explain why I need this in a minute. So here it is recursed. Oh, let me think. No, we don't need that, sorry. Let me go back again, edit that flow again. So let's use the manual flow, but I'm going to add an input here, input as a text field, and I'm going to say here the list name. So that's the input I want here, list name input, and make the field optional. No, I'm going to take that out. I want to make it mandatory, that, okay. And then what I'm going to do here is, here the list a square, I'm going to make it here list, just make it highest score. Then here in this, instead of the list a, I'm going to make dynamic. So click on the enter custom value here and select the value from the input, which is here the list name. See that input is coming from here. Remember, the schema is same, so that I can pass list A, list B, and so on. Then again here, I'm going to rename this to call list total records. And again the length, that's fine, there is no change there. Again under the if the output is greater than 0, set the variable, so change that to highest score because we renamed it. Then again we are multiplying with that value of that. I don't want the create here, so I'm going to delete that now. I found the result I want. Then the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to call Power Apps. See that? Respond to Power App or flow here. Add an output. And in here, the text, I'm going to say total score for that list. Yeah, this one. And that we set the total score here, is it? Using the set variable highest score. So I'm going to map that value here, the highest score here. See that? There it is. Let's save this flow now. Okay, there is an error here. Correct include a valid reference list A total records. Okay, under the set variable 2. So here, because we renamed, remember we renamed the list total records. So the reference here also we need to change here, I think. Let me go back and find out. Get item score. Yeah, see that? List, because we renamed that. So it's list space, list A, I removed that. So list space is underscore here. Remember, that's the reason you can see all the underscores here. So list, see that? This one here, list total records. That's one we want, list underscore total records. Update. Here it is. Now, okay, what I'll do is I'll put this under the add a note. See, sometimes it's more meaningful way of seeing it, what the expression is. Then save that. Okay, that's good. And also I could put the list total record, the length as well in the comment. In the note. Here it is. That's what that is. Okay, so we are responding that finally the value back here. So that flow is good. We should be able to save this successfully now. Okay, that's good. This is what it's going to do the job for us. So the whole idea here is, let me go back again. The whole idea for this flow is we are going to pass the list name, then execute and find the results and get it back to the main flow. Okay, so this is like a parent and child flows now. That's a concept here. So now I'm going to go back to the read all list flow now, edit that, which is our original flow. And here still the trigger will be manual, but there is no input here. This is where it's going to start, or this could be a scheduled trigger. And here I'm going to delete all these now because I don't want all these now. We replicated all these steps under the other one now. So let me delete all this. Again, list A records, that I need to delete that also. And I need to delete the if statement also here. Okay. Now for here, I'm going to use an array here. So initialize an array here. So what I could do is I could initialize an array first. So initialize array here. Okay. And here, let me delete this create item. I don't want it now. I will worry about that later. Okay, so the parent flow is going to be initialize an array and call this array called list all list scores. Okay, it will make sense in a minute, don't worry about that. Array, that's an array. Okay, and the next step, I'm going to add a compose here. Okay, so in the compose, I'm going to add list A comma list B. And if you got more than one, like in the thread here, user has up to list 5. So you can define all the names exactly as in the SharePoint names there. And next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to use another compose here and use a split. So I'm going to split this because I want to read each and every list. So going back here to the expression here, click on the expression and click, use the split, click on the dynamic content. Oops, that's gone. Split, click on the dynamic content. Oh, let me do it again. Right, split. Okay, click on the dynamic content, slow down, and then go to the compose list A list B here. That's the output we want. Comma, the delimiter here is the comma. List A comma is our delimiter, yeah, the separator. So the 2 single quotes comma, that's what we want here. Okay, let me copy that. Okay, and going to put that in the note also, that expression. Here we go, that's the expression we want. Okay, next I can apply to each. So I'm going to click on the control, apply to each. Now it's an array. This will return as an array now. So what I could do is I could get the output of the compose 2 here, and in the add item I can go in the compose here and say give me each item. So here using the expression I can say item. Click OK. That's it, item. Yeah, save the flow. Okay, let me run this and show you what it's going to happen now here. So click manually and click test and run the flow. Here it is. So that's ran successfully. You can see list A now and list B now. See, and here we use the split. That's why it's an array. We pass this with comma, with comma separator here as the separator, and we use the separator to split. That's an array. Hence, we can apply to each to get each and every values there. That's all it is. Quite simple. The next thing I'm going to use here is I'm going to use, again, you type flow there. I think it's called flow or run a flow, I think. Called child flow. No, let's put admin. Yeah, Power Automate for admins, Power Automate management. Okay, let me find it. Okay, so the plan is I want to call the other flow now. This is my parent flow. I want to call my other flow. So for this, we need to create a solution. Otherwise, this won't work. So what I need is I need to go to my flows. So these 2 flows which we just created, let me go back to the flows now. Yeah, you can see these 2 flows we want to create under a solution. So for that, go to the solutions. It's quite easy to do the solutions. And that's always the best way as well. You can use this for deploying to other environments or any other organizations. You can import, export these solutions. Okay, for here you need to click on new solution, call it as, I'm going to call Power Automate Community Score Demo Solution. This you need to use a publisher. So publisher is something which is your own IP actually. So you can click on a new publisher here and put your name, and you need a prefix. So if your company name is called, I don't know, ABC Limited, generally people use a prefix as ABC here. Yeah, that's all it is. So there are other things associated with that, but I'm not going to explain all that. Just if you don't have it, just create that here with name, display name, and like that. Yeah, I already got one which I created here in my name called AJB here. Yeah, I'm going to create that. You need a publisher for solutions. Once it create, what you can do is you can get the other flows from my flows to here. That's what the plan is. So go to the add existing option and go to the automation one and click on the cloud flow. Then let's see then whether we should be able to see or not. So outside Dataverse we need to click and see. This is all 1 week ago. These are okay. Let me see from Dataverse. That is a Dataverse ones. I don't think it's this. Okay, let me find it. Okay, I found the documentation for this. So if you look this here, it says here like instant flows that use a manual trigger cannot be added to a solution after the flow cannot be created. To include an instant flow in the solution must be created from. Basically, we need to recreate that. That's a bad news. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go in another route there. So I know we created PA community score demo solution here. Yeah. So that's the solution we created. Let me copy that name here. I'm going to go back to my flows because my flows are manual flow, which we won't be able to get it out. So what I'm going to do here is, let me see, I'm going to do another trick here. So add an edit here. Instead of manual trigger, I'm going to delete that manual trigger. And the plan is I'm going to use Microsoft Dataverse here and say when a row is added, this I'm going to delete it once I put this in the solution. So this is the only way I can easily copy it. Otherwise I need to replicate all the steps in the other, in the other solution, which I don't want to do it. So let me go through this way. When a record is added, I'm going to use a table name. It doesn't matter what table it is. I'm going to use accounts, and the scope I'm going to use is organization, and just save it. So that means it's a Dataverse one. It is the record is a Dataverse one. So click back, go to the flows again. That is read all. Let me make a note of that. Read all list and update total scores, and the other one is process scores. Okay, so let me edit this also. Like I mentioned, this step, the trigger one, I'm going to delete it. Yeah, hopefully that should work without replicating all that steps. So let me delete this. This is a problem because once you created the manual trigger flow, you won't be able to put that in a solution because it's under the my flows. That's the way it works. Okay, let me go back to the Dataverse connectivity here. When an action is performed, when a record is created, that's what I want. When a row is added, yeah. Okay, added, the table name is, again I'm going to use the same one, accounts and organization, save it. Oh, here is a list name required. Yeah, that's correct. So I'm going to put test here at the minute. Let me save that. It doesn't matter. We can work out that later. Yeah, because we deleted that input. Remember, the input has been gone from the manual trigger. Oh, let me save it again. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't like that. Probably this one here, the get table one, I think. So I'm going to make it list here, something like that. Let me save it. Let's see. We can worry about this later. Okay, that's fine. That's done now. At least it's saved. So we can go back and rework on that. So let me go back to the solutions now. And remember our solution is called PA Community Score Demo. Yeah. Okay, I found that. So let me open that PA Community Score Demo. Okay, hopefully we should be able to add that now. Add existing automation cloud flow. Let's see that now. There we go. We can see process this. You see that? So I'm going to select that and add. So that's a hacking way it is, just to easily import that, put into the solution without replicating the steps. So now it's going to add those. As soon as this is get added, we are going to remove the other step. That's the plan. So if I go, here we go, that's added now. That's the good news now here. So in the cloud flows, if I go to the cloud flows, I can see that now process and read list. So let's take the read list one now. Open that. The first thing we need to do there is we need to remove that connector there. Okay. Right. Let me edit this. Okay, I'm editing that and delete the very first manual step. The system is a bit slow here. I don't know what it is. It's taking a little bit time. Okay, so let me delete this. There are no references of the the trigger in the below steps. And then hopefully I should be able to re-add the manual button now. Remember, this could be your business scenarios, how you want that trigger, yeah? Like scheduled or click a button and execute or whatever that way. Okay, that's good news. We want to revisit this. Let me go back. And again, go back to the solution again. So click on the back button here. Hopefully that should take us back to the solution. Oh no. So let me close that. Yeah. So it's in the other browser window. Yeah. So let me go to the process score now. This is the second one. And we need to edit this now. The second one. Okay. Right. Click edit. So here, remember, we need to delete the very first step. Okay, let me delete the first step. Delete. Then add the manual trigger back again. Then call this, the text box we need to add again, and call that as list name. Then make sure that is a mandatory field. Then under the list here, go all the way down to the custom value, map that from the input, from the manual trigger input. It's called the list name here. See that? If you can't find it, always search. It's easy way to find that list name. Here it is. See that? Then rest all the logic fine. We haven't touched any of those. Oh, okay. So that's gone as well. So we need to map this output. I don't know what happened there. So list total number of records. That's output. We need to map again here. Yeah. Or you can directly use this expression here. It's up to you. Is greater than 0. Then set variable. That's all good news. Then finally responding it back. Click the save button. That should be able to save now. So this is our child flow now, remember. So and then we are going to pass the list name from the parent flow, so that our this process is more like a function now. So we don't want to replicate times, how many times this was, which I mentioned earlier. 1 2 3 4 5 5 times 5 listed there. 25 steps. We have avoided 25 steps. We're only using 5 steps. So the duplicate 20 steps, we saved it here. If we going through the very first way I explained it. So let's go back to the solution again. So let me close this one now. So it's going back to the solution now. So we got the both flows now under the cloud flows in the solution. Now go to the read all now again, because that's one we need to work on a little bit, not much. This is our parent flow now. Okay. So in the parent flow, what we need to do here is, once I need to edit that. Okay, so we know we are, we got, we are splitting that. Remember earlier we said we've got all the list names been defined, and this is each list name we got. So all we need to now here is go to the choose an operation and say run a child flow, I think. Here we go, run a child flow. Earlier I can't get that because we need to create a solution. So under the my flows, we won't be able to get this. Remember that. So now here, what we want is we want to call process scores. Yeah. So if you look this one here, it loads all of them. So let's call process scores. Here we go. That's our flow we want. Hopefully we should be able to get the list name. See that? And the list name is item, current item. So I could use the expression and say item here. So that's a list, each list name from the array. I can delete this. I don't want that. I don't need this anymore. Okay. Now this is going to return a result now, don't you? So this result is going to be, I'm going to add a compose here and show you that. So under the compose, I'm going to get the result. The result is, if you see the run a child flow, see the total score, that's the one we want. So select that. Yeah, that's the value you're returning back here. Now I'm going to save this flow now here. We haven't finished that, but I'm going to run this flow and see what's the results we are going to get here. So click on manually and run the flow now. So what's going to happen here is it's going to, the loop is going to execute and child flow executed with the list A. So in the combo C, we got 120. Here we go, we got 120 here as a result. And in the second V1, so let me go back to here and to find the list B now here. So list B, and in the list B, what's the result we are expecting? Oh, something wrong here. Let me refresh it. So list B, there are 2 here. So it should be the highest score is 90. Then 90 times 2 is 180 we are expecting here. So going back to the run history here. That's the second one. That's list B been passed to the other child flow. Here we go, 180. That's good news. So now we want to collect all this in this array. Remember, I declared all list scores. So all I'm going to do here is inside that loop, I'm going to say append array. Append to array variable, all list scores. And for that here, I can use the total score again. So that is the total scores. Here we go. Again, I don't want this compose 3. I just want to run it and show you earlier. That's the reason I added it. Yeah. Okay, that's good. So now once it executed after the apply to each, we got everything here. And now we know that under, here my data only got 2 lists. Okay. So in theory, if I go to the outside the loop and add a compose, and the list, this is called all list, don't you? So here I'm going to use an expression. I'm going to use all list scores. See the value here, all variable, all list scores. Let's copy that, remove that, go into the expression, paste that, remove the unwanted characters there, like that, and put an index there like 0 there, like that. Click OK. That's my first value then. And I'm going to add another compose also here. So I'll explain it, why I'm explaining why I want this now. So this is another one. So for this again, I could use the same thing, but my second value I want, the second list. So that is index 1. That's the second list of the total scores. Okay, so remember, I got only 2 lists. So if you got 5 lists, you need to expand this all the way up to 5 then, that's all it is, with index starting with 0. That is that. So let me add this in the add a note. That's that then. And here, it's slightly different. The only thing is the index value we want here. Again, add a note. So here we go. That's like that. It goes up to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 5 lists then, don't you? So that's where we got all the records. So I'm going to manually run and see that from the array I'm extracting these values. That's what I'm doing. So let me save it and run again. Here it is. So this is the first one, 120. This one should be 180. Here we go. Yeah. So now we got all these values. What we need to do in the final step. The final step is create item. Here it is. Create item. And here I need to select the SharePoint site name, then the total scores, that's my list. Then here you will see that my title is, I'm going to say like total scores on, go to the expression, it's the same thing which I explained earlier, go to the formatDateTime, utcNow, comma, then I'm going to put in a presentable format, date, that's that. Then here this date as an expression we can say utcNow, because that's a SharePoint date, that's a function we need. List A score, that is this compose 3 output. You could either directly use this compose 3 mapping here, or you could use this expression here like that. So let me copy that expression, go back here, click on the expression like that. There are different ways you can use it. So it's up to you. You can then avoid these two steps, then compose 3 and compose 4, you can delete it. So let me use the compose 3 and compose 4 here. So I'm going to use compose 3. Then here I'm going to use compose 4 output. Here it is. So let me save this, and to make sure that under the total scores I don't need any other one now yet. So let me go back here. Okay, the total scores, I'm going to delete this now. This is for the test I'm doing, yeah. And select and delete. Oh, I didn't select that. So let me delete that. Okay, that's deleted. So that's good news now. Okay, that's deleted now. And let me go back to my flow now and click on the test. Remember, it's a manual test, and run. Okay, so that's going okay now. Here we go, that's done. So if I may take you back here and refresh the total scores, that should show today's date with list A and list B score with those records. Here we go, 120 and 180. And if I may take you, go back to the other flow, which is the process score ones. If I open that, you should be able to see a couple of runs there under the run history, which is our child flow. Remember that. Okay, here it is. So if you look at the 28-day run history, it always show you the last 28 days. See, there are two here. So if I may take you to the first one, that most likely the list B one it is. That's the one we are passing it in the loop. Remember, and the first one is list B then. So if I may take you to the run history of the child flow, and if you look the input here, so under the input list B here, see that's the list B here. And if I may take you back to the other run history, which is this one, that should show list A then. So if you got 5 lists, you'll be able to see 5 runs there within few seconds. Yeah, so go back here, you should be able to see list A here. So this is a technique you can use in flow to normalize your flows without having lots of steps being replicated. Hope this is useful, and thank you for watching.